da 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 da. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bliss Podcast. That was a special appearance. You got a 2-second appearance of His Grace Purji Prabhu. You were so fortunate. Thank you for tuning in to the Bliss Podcast. If you haven't come to the Bliss Podcast before, this is a space. This is a space where we discuss Krishna consciousness, which is a handy-dandy practice which frees you from the cycle of birth and death and all material miseries. Wow, would you look at that? That's a cool thing. And it's not a joke. It's a transcendental process which is not only approved by great realized souls, saints, yogis, acharyas, but it's also practically understood and felt by anyone who takes up to the practice, even in mild seriousness. If you just chant Hare Krishna, you'll understand what we mean. Okay? And if you hear this podcast, hopefully also you'll get some kind of idea. But if you're coming back to the podcast and you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you for coming. I know it may be a little tough to hear me speak, but I appreciate you tolerating and coming every week. It's very encouraging to see the same people here. Die-hard fans like Peter Krishna Prabhu, like Harley David Heiser, like Nejcs. Okay, these are an Aliaj Meshna. Oh boy, now I just exposed myself. I don't know how to pronounce the Slovenian names. Please forgive me, Prabhu. Anyway, these are very nice frequent listeners, devotees, who are tuning into the podcast. Just to name a few, or what is that? A handful? What is it? I can't remember there's different terms for different amounts, and I can't remember them. Anyway, that's not very important. So I asked. This is our podcast series, but we also have many other. By we, I mean the Bhaktivedanta lives in Sound Society. It's quite a mouthful. It goes for short as the Bliss, which is much catchier name. The Bliss is a society which teaches people how to follow Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is a bona fide spiritual master, bona fide guru, who comes in the line of disciplic succession straight from Krishna, God. And he brought transcendental knowledge to the West, and he expounded on the science of God and self-realization, enlightenment, through his books. So you can read these books and see what we mean. This wonderful philosophy, which we're going to speak on a little bit today. I've totally lost my train of thought. Now, what was I saying? Yes, Srila Prabhupada, Bliss. Okay, so Bliss is a society that teaches people how to follow Srila Prabhupada, how to become actually, truly, spiritually happy. And so we do many different contents, if that is a word I can use. We have different mediums by which we propagate this philosophy, and you can learn, and you can see, and you can hear, and you can even taste if you come to our temple here in London. We have nice prasadam, or spiritual food. That's very nice. And anyone who is associated with the Hare Krishnas will tell you that we have very good food. They don't know about the philosophy so much, but the food is very nice. Okay, so if you'd like, you can check out our different platforms, like live streams. We have live streams where we study the various spiritual literatures, transcendental books, and we do those on Facebook. And we stream them every single morning at 8:30 London time. So you can calculate depending on where you are listening from in the world. I know we have a particular Bhakta MJ from New York, Matthew. Bhakta Matthew, very nice, a devotee. And he's listening at... he needs to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch those classes. Okay, so committed he wants to start waking up at 3 a.m. just so he can hear our classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Just imagine. Okay, that is his devotion. Very nice, very strong devotee. He wants to hear Srimad Bhagavatam like that. Maybe that's not possible for everyone, but just see, these classes. So nice. His Grace Purja Prabhu is explaining Bhagavatam every morning, and devotees are asking many questions, and it's a lively discussion. So you can check that out. You can come along. Join the Bliss Srimad Bhagavatam study community. We also have Bhagavad-Gita, which is another very important scripture. Maybe you've heard about it. Bhagavad-Gita, spoken by Krishna himself, gives all of the solutions to life, all the answers to life, everything you ever wondered about. What is this life about? Who am I? Is there a God? What is my relationship with him? How to stop suffering once and for all? Okay, that's the not the essence of Bhagavad Gita, but that's some of the stuff that Bhagavad Gita covers, and we study that scripture also every Wednesday at 7 p.m. London time. Okay, so if this sounds at all interesting to you, you can check out our Expand the Bliss Facebook page, which I'm going to link in the description of this video, and you can skedaddle over there once you finish listening to this podcast, hopefully, or maybe you can listen to this podcast and surf our different content at the same time. Speaking of which, we have a website. It has articles, it has ebooks. You can learn more about us on there. You can subscribe to our mailing list, get some newsletters and updates and stuff like this. Sorry. We also have another YouTube channel, The Bliss Cinema. We have some kind of cool movies on there. 4,000 subscribers. That's cool. That means there's something there. Why don't you go check it out? 4,000 subs. There's nice movies. We edit. This is not so much edited. This is more raw. Raw speaking. These podcasts. But we have edited movies. With movies, actually, not just audio. And there's all kinds of nice philosophical expositions and documentaries there. So why don't you go check that out? That's a nice one. And there are many other things also. We have ebooks, if you like to read. We have ebooks, Bliss, unique ebooks, compilations of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, like teachings of Lord Buddha. We also have works written by devotees, like His Grace Purja Prabhu has written some very nice books about the proof of the soul and why we accept the Vedas. These are very interesting philosophical exposés, and you can ask anyone like Peter Kirshner Prabhu, who's one of our dear supporters, Patreon. He got all of the ebooks from us, and I'm sure he'll tell you that they're very nice. Otherwise, he would have told us they're not very nice. So hopefully Peter Kirshner Prabhu will give you a nice review. You can ask him, maybe. He's on Facebook. Shout out to Peter Kirshner, Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, actually, speaking of Peter Kirshner Prabhu, that's an interesting thing. Krishna just kind of directed my mind to that particular great personality, great sage, Peter Kirshner, because he actually suggested the topic of this week's podcast, which is the sharp words of the Guru. What is that? It's kind of a loaded line. We're going to try and a little bit break it down, what it means on today's podcast. Alright, so just quickly before I get into the nitty-gritties, let us just do a quick Bliss update. What is the Bliss news? I don't have any cool sound effect for the Bliss news because I have very limited technology. I don't exactly have a multi-million-dollar recording studio here. I'm working on a laptop and a phone in a tiny little hotel room in East Ham, London, so it's not so much facilities-wise. I don't have so much flexibility. But anyway, I can't even remember the jingle I used to do for this. So you can just imagine some cool jingle. I'll give you a couple seconds to imagine a cool jingle. Okay, so now Bliss News. I hope that was satisfactory. So the Bliss News, if you've been following us, and if you haven't been following us, we've been moving from hotel, hot hell, little dark and damp prison cells. We've been moving across the London frontier from hotel to hotel after we got kicked out of our previous temple, not because we're criminals, but because the landlord made a mistake with the legal papers. So that was kind of an interesting surprise. Get out the next day, we were told, get out by tomorrow morning, and we packed up our things and we had to leave. Otherwise, we would have gotten a huge fine. Or we wouldn't have gotten it, but the landlords would have, and who wants that? So we had to move, and then we were moving from hotel to hotel, looking for another place, and just recently, literally, before starting this podcast, before I pressed play, record, I got a message from our potential landlady, a very nice lady, who I don't think I'm disclosed to say the name here, but she's a very nice lady, and she is now eager to move forward with us getting the papers signed for a new hotel. That would suck. A new place in northern London, quite close to the central, and spacious enough to even house another devotee. Oh, Haribol. So, she just confirmed that, and she says she's even looking forward to having us as tenants. She appreciates what we do as monks, trying to elevate other people's consciousness. So that was kind of I felt that was a nice, encouraging thing to say. And she was a little cautious, of course, to accept us because we don't have traditional jobs, so to speak. But saying we depend on Krishna is not exactly what a landlord wants to hear, but she was very nice, and we could show her that after the kind contributions of our supporters, we were able to raise enough money to pay ahead, which gave us some security that she could accept us as tenants. So again, thank you so much to all of our supporters. There are so many contributors. I can't list them all here, but many nice devotees and non-devotees who have now become devotees because they did this nice thing. They've given to this long-running project. So thank you so much. Now, on May, if all goes according to plan, we will move into this place, and then actually we can start some more substantial street preaching, chanting on the streets, Hare Krishna, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books to people who desperately need the knowledge, and inviting people to the temple so they can also learn and take spiritual food, prasadam. So that will be very, very nice. And even before that, on March 28th, which is as of this day that I'm recording, March 8th, it's only 20 days from now, we'll be able to once again distribute Srila Prabhupada's books on the streets of London if they don't come up with a new strain of COVID like what happened last time. So, actually I heard there was another strain coming, right? There's the Brazilian. Some old news, okay. Well, anyway, I'm out of date with the news, COVID news. I've assimilated COVID into my reality now. It just is. Anyway, hopefully Mr. Johnson will sort things out in England and we'll be able to go on the streets.
Yeah, right.
So let me know where you're watching from. We're in London, but the globe is a big place. Bhuvaloka is a big place. Can I say sphere? I don't know. It might not be a sphere, actually. That's a whole other podcast that I'm definitely not going to get into now. And I think will probably cause a couple of comments in the comment section. Just make a little stir there. Okay, so anyway, it's a big place. You can let me know where you're watching from. Are you watching from California or Tokyo? Or I don't think we have anyone listening in any of those places as far as I know. That's why I named those two. Maybe I'm now just grabbing people from our anonymous listeners, and they actually live in those two places. But anyway, we have devotees and people listening to these from all corners of the globe. Connecticut and New York and Slovakia and Slovenia and England and Australia and Africa. So it's very cool. There's a global community here. So please let me know where you're from and we can put you on the map, the Bliss map. Okay, so now, without any further ado, as they said in Shakespearean times, the topic of today's podcast is the sharp words of a guru. So I said I was going to break that down. I never did. The topic itself, the very topic sentence, is quite, as I said, loaded. Let's jump into the word guru first. Okay, so I think it's important because not everyone understands actually what the heck is a guru in the first place. Of course, now there are so many misconceptions or so many impressions, wrong ideas that people might have when the word guru is uttered. The word guru is usually now connotated with prosperity gurus, for example. There are many cheaters who you'll find on the YouTube advertisements. I'm here in my garage, and I got a Lamborghini and a Ferrari behind me, and a big. But I'm more proud of this big stack of books. So I could teach you how to also get a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. So I mean, there are people like this. That's usually what comes to people's mind when they hear guru. How to guru you into being a very successful materialist. Cheat you, actually, usually just take your money and give you some nonsense advice that, of course, they're not going to tell you how to become successful, because then you would be a competitor to them. I don't know why people don't think about things like that, but anyway. So it usually has a bad connotation, or if people, if they're not thinking like that, they're thinking of some cheetah swami, more spiritual, but some cheetah swami who, produces gold out of the mouth and says that he's gods, and then brainwashes people, right? Kidnaps them and brainwashes them and so many things. So it generally doesn't have a very good connotation, the word guru. But that is not really a guru. None of these ideas that people might have are actually anything to do with a real guru. A guru is someone who you go to solve the actual problems of life. A guru is not someone you go to just so you can say that you have a guru. I mean, I have everything. I have the car, I have the money, whatever. But I don't have a guru yet, so let me go get a guru. A guru is not like a fashion, and guru is also not like a pet that you can just use to make your material life more comfortable. It doesn't just give you advice, like I was mentioning, these materialistic gurus, how to make more money, how to get woman, how to get man, whatever, how to become successful, how to improve your relationships. This is not a guru. Someone who is solving your temporary problems, someone who's massaging your ego and telling you everything's going to be okay, or telling you that you can be successful in the material worlds. This is not a guru. They may pose as a guru and be giving advice, but that is not how the Vedas define a guru. So a guru is someone that you approach to solve the problems of life. And our spiritual master, our guru, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, is a guru that's coming in the line of disciplic succession. So this is one of the qualifications, one of the tick boxes, you could say, that a real guru must have on his resume, on his guru resume. I don't know if it's okay to say like that, but if the guru isn't coming in a line of disciplic succession, which means that the truth, or God himself, Krishna, is the origin of knowledge, right? The absolute truth. And he's passing down, he is giving the knowledge originally, and that knowledge is passed down like a ripe mango through a tree, right? They're in India, when they harvest a mango tree, there's a very ripe mango at the top. So it's a quite tall tree, and if they let the mango just drop down to the floor, it's going to smash on the floor, and the whole thing is ruined. So instead, there's a system where there are a chain of workers, and then the person at the top, he passes down the mango to the person just below him, just below his feet, and so on and so forth. So there is a series of people on the tree, and they pass down the mango, so it remains in a perfect condition, and then someone can get a ripe mango to offer to Krishna, right? Probably not in most circumstances, but that would be the best. So now, the knowledge getting passed down from Krishna is like that. The knowledge, if it's not passed down from guru to disciple, and then the disciple becomes a guru by preaching, and then he passes it down to his disciple, if it's not passed down in this perfect succession and repeated perfectly as it is, then it becomes a spoiled mango, so to speak. And also this system ensures that not anyone can just say, I'm a guru, I've realized God from within myself, and now I'm speaking the truth. Because any damn nonsense can just come along and say, I have the truth, and what I speak you should accept, and people get cheated like that. But this is not actually, we should understand that if he's coming in a disciplic succession, there's another guru before him who was speaking the same thing, and a guru that was speaking him before that was speaking the same thing, and ultimately, all these gurus in disciplic succession are not speaking anything different from the original source of knowledge, the perfect source of knowledge, the standard of knowledge, God himself, Krishna. No one can be a better authority than Krishna or God. So that is our system. We don't speculate like the scientists. They're speculating. It could be like this. Maybe the universe started by chance, by Big Bang. Maybe. By chance, I'm thinking about this right now. No, we don't speculate like that. That's nonsense. You can't understand anything with your mind. It's so limited. Right? The mind is so disturbing all the time. It's so limited. You can't even remember what you did last Tuesday perfectly. But still, they want to speculate on if God exists, or what the beginning of the universe was, or what the purpose of life is, or whether life, what is the origin of life. These things you can't understand with your mundane, limited mind. So our system is not like that. We accept knowledge from Krishna, and Krishna is the perfect person and the original person, and whom everything is even emanating from in the first place. Janmadi asya taha. Okay, this is what we call a Shloka from the Vedas, and it means that everything, the absolute truth is that which everything is emanating from. Everything is coming from a source. All the energy is coming from one source of energy, and that source is a person, conscious, because we are conscious. The source also must contain consciousness. So Krishna is that source, and because he's the original, and he is perfect. So we accept knowledge from Krishna, and more technically speaking, a representative of Krishna who can present the knowledge perfectly according to time, place, and circumstance, because maybe we have a more dull brain, and we can't necessarily understand the knowledge as Krishna spoke it previously, because we don't have such high intelligence to approach God. So that is our system. No speculation and no self-proclamation. Okay, so this is a kind of an important point. The parampara, as it is called, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita, he establishes this system. In the second verse of the 4th chapter, he says, Evam parampara praptam mimam rajasayo viduhu sa kalanaha mahattaha yoganashtaha parantapaha. The chain is going on, and when it's broken, then Krishna sends someone else, or he comes himself, to fix that chain. So it's a perfect system of perfect knowledge. Okay, so no cheating, no self-proclamation, but this disciplic succession must be there. So anyway, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is part of one of the disciplic successions. There are a few a handful. I think a handful means four. Yeah, a handful of disciplic successions, and they are the Rudra Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya. What is that? I am a little slipping. Maybe someone can help me out in the comment section. If you are so learned that you know the one I'm missing. And then there's also our Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya. Okay, so our Sampradaya comes from the original person in the universe, the first created being. Some people mistake this person to be God. It is not the actual fact. It's said in the Bhagavatam, Teni Brahma Hridaye. The Vedic knowledge was injected into Brahma. So, Brahma may have been the first person in the universe, but where's the knowledge coming from? Right? It's coming from Vishnu or Narayana. That means Narayana is beyond the creation. If Brahma is the first person in the created universe, but he receives the knowledge from someone else, then someone else is existing beyond the material creation. That's Krishna. So our disciplic succession comes from Lord Brahma, and yes, Srila Prabhupada is the 33rd, if I'm not mistaken, guru in that disciplic succession, all the way from Lord Brahma, 33rd prominent guru. Okay, so now he wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad-Gita, and he very nicely explains in the 7th Shloka of the 2nd chapter why we should approach a guru. What is the necessity of approaching a guru? So I'm just going to read that portion now, because I think it's very enlightening. Alright, so Arjuna is the not exactly the hero. Hero is kind of like it's like a Western idea of literature, storyline. Arjuna is not exactly the hero. The setting of Bhagavad-Gita is that Arjuna is approaching Krishna because he's in a great distress in material existence. He becomes into a great, maybe juxtaposition is not the correct word, but he comes into a great crossroads. He has to kill his whole family because of the circumstances of his life. He is faced with killing his whole family on a battlefield. So he's very much distressed. He doesn't know what to do, and he approaches Krishna for guidance. What should he do with his life? So he says in the 7th shloka of the 2nd chapter, "Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of my miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life, and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master who is in a disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not, therefore, remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishads, the perplexed man is described as follows. Yova itaraksharam gagyavichlama lokat praiti sakripanaha. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human, and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs, without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life, and therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana, or he is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. Okay, and then another kind of an interesting Shloka there is quoted, Yai tadaksharam gagi viditshma lokat praiti sabramanaha. Kind of like an opposite of the previous Shloka that was just quoted. So that was Srila Prabhupada very nicely, wonderfully explaining why we should accept a guru. Like I mentioned, not as a fashion, not as a pet, not as a someone to enhance my material life, but actually quite the opposite. It's someone who I approach when I realize that none of these things could possibly ever make me happy, make me satisfied. These things are useless, and no one has ever become happy by these things. I was just discussing with His Grace Purji Prabhu, who's the founder of the Bhaktivedanta, lives in Sound Society. Actually, I have the great fortune of being able to discuss with him on an intimate, regular basis. He and I were just discussing that actually people who are the most, and Srila Prabhupada also was discussing this morning on a morning walk, and that's the kind of the inspiration for what we were discussing, that people in general, not people in general, very few people, they reach the top of the material world. They get everything, right? That all of the success, so-called, there's actually very limited things you can do when you get to the top. And even George Harrison, maybe you know this personality, George Harrison, he said that after reaching the top, I realized that there's nothing there. He got to the top of the world and he got a good view and he saw, oh, there's actually nothing. George Harrison was one of the most successful, famous, rich, liked personalities. Part of there's only four members of the Beatles, but he was one of the main members of the Beatles. So, and he said there's nothing there. Right, so, and there are many other examples. There's a whole club, I mentioned them before in many other podcasts. There's the 27 Club. All these great celebrities, so-called great celebrities, they get to 27 and they kill themselves. It's very interesting because even though they have everything materially, that everyone in this material world is rushing, jumping like monkeys to get money and the opposite sex, fame, they have all these things in surplus, yet they kill themselves. They're completely dissatisfied. They take to intoxication out of frustration. I mean, I'm not just talking like, no intoxication is good. But I mean, they take to things like heroin, to completely shut off the brain. Why? Because it's not just completely dissatisfying. Right? And people are still after these things, it's so foolish. So anyway, one who is intelligent, a brahmana, like Prabhupada said here, is a brahmana. One who can see things as they are, realizes, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I trying to pursue these things, and even though they won't ever make me happy? So, such an intelligent person, he approaches a guru, and he asks, what is the purpose of my life? What should I do with my time? What should I do with my life? How to get free from the problems of life? The main problems, those which really causes the anxiety, are birth, death, old age, and disease. And there are many other problems in between those also, but these are the main ones. Right? We're stuck in this world. We don't know why we're here. And if we don't have the knowledge, if we don't have any knowledge, we basically just think that life is, I go to school, I work hard, I get a degree, I get a job, I get a family, and then I work hard, I can retire, live comfortably for a few years while I'm in an old body, which means it's not really comfortable at all. So many medical things are there, medical problems, and then I have to die. So what is that? So that's why Srila Prabhupada here says that he is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human and thus quits the world like cats and dogs. Cats and dogs. What is the difference between a cat and a dog who die simply enjoying their senses and a human being who also dies just enjoying his senses? Actually, in principle, there's no difference between the two. It might seem a little harsh, it might seem a little sharp, but it's actually the fact. And it should wake us up. these words, we're kind of getting to the one of the main points of the podcast now, finally, after so long, is these words, although sharp, they should wake us up. That's the point. Is to the Vedas actually say, wake up, Jeev Jago, realize what the hell you're doing here. And so the guru is kind of like if you've seen the movie Inception, they wake up the person from that dream state, right? The person is in like a dream, multiple layered dream, and it's a very real dream, and he's like 10 dreams in. So the only way to wake him up is they kick him into a bathtub full of cold water, and then he wakes up and he realizes the actual non-dream reality. Of course, in that movie he's also living in a dream, because this material world is kind of like a dream. But this is the guru. He gives us a kick into a bathtub of cold, hard truth, reality. And his sharp words are actually very much beneficial to us, even though they may a little bit hurt our ego. I'm not a cat and a dog. I have my stuff together. I think I know what I'm doing in life. No, that is not the fact. And the guru explains it, puts it out nicely, breaks down the knowledge. There's a nice Mataji lady, Alina, she says like this. She's watching probably now. But break down the knowledge. So the guru, he breaks down, not a fanaticism, he breaks down scientifically, just like how Prabhupada in his purple, he broke down scientifically why we should approach a guru. Right, so yes, the problems of life are impossible. Like I mentioned before, the scientists are just speculating. What are the answers? It's not possible to solve the problems of life just by speculating, by using our limited, imperfect senses. No one has ever solved the problems of life. They're trying to solve the problem of death, but they never have done it. They've not made any progress on it, and they will never be able to do it. It's the law of nature that if you have a material body, it must die. Everything material must eventually die. Some of it has a longer lifespan than others, just like there are beings in higher planets. People may get a little, there may be a little, now we hit yet another comma in people's thinking. What, there's people as aliens on other planets? Yeah, there's higher beings on other planets. We get this information from the Vedas. It is logical also, right? There are living entities living in the water, that you can't live in the water, but they can. So why can't other living entities live on other planets in different atmospheres, right? The creatures have a different body. They can live in a different atmosphere. So anyway, there are higher beings or lower beings in different planetary systems, and they have a longer duration of life, along with other things, more advanced intelligence, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't matter, even if they have a very long duration of life, billions of years, it may seem very fantastic, but they must also die, right? So no one's ever been able to solve these problems, and we never will be able to solve these problems, because nature is described in the Bhagavad-Gita as insurmountable. Durachaya, I think the word is. Insurmountable material nature. So the only way to get out is to approach a guru. And not that you yourself can become a guru. If you are bound to material nature, if you're bound to the body, we're not the body. We're the spirit soul. We're the consciousness. The body's changing. You're not changing. You're still here. Your spiritual consciousness, not the material body. Otherwise, how would you be able to observe the changes? You're an eternal spiritual particle. But because we think with the body, because we're bound to that conception, it's not possible for us to get out of it by ourselves. Just think about it. If you're bound up, just imagine a person bound up with ropes. He can't get out of the ropes unless somebody who is not bound helps him. So that is a guru. A guru is not bound. He's a transcendental personality. So he can actually give you knowledge, transcendental knowledge, by which you can get out of the binding. Okay, so that is why we accept a guru. Kind of a short version, why we accept a guru in the first place. That's kind of very important. Most important for understanding why a guru uses sharp words. Because if we don't understand why we're accepting a guru in the first place, if the guru speaks sharply, we're going to take it as a personal thing. Oh, he's insulting me. Oh, he's puffed up. This is nonsense. If you approach a guru because you realize I'm a nonsense and I have no idea what I'm doing in this world, I have no idea what to do with my life, then by approaching a guru, you should understand that because I'm a nonsense, I should learn from someone who actually knows. And if he chastises me, or if he speaks harshly, who am I to say that that's not correct? I don't know. That's why I'm in ignorance. That's why I'm approaching. So anyway, that's why we approach a guru. And that mentality, that idea, that understanding should remain while we execute the guru's instructions. Okay, otherwise we make offenses or we have misunderstandings and we can't advance. So so now the guru's words, just to elaborate this quickly on this point, the guru's words are sharp because we have a knot in the heart. Like I mentioned before, we think we're the body. We're bound to the conception that we are the body. In Bengali, this is referred to as upadhis. Upadhis are designations. That's the translation. What is a designation? That is an idea that we have in our consciousness, an attachment to a certain designation or idea of what we are. If we think with a body, we automatically think, okay, my body is black, so I'm a black man. Or my body is was born in a Muslim family, so I think I'm a Muslim. My body was born in England, so I think I'm an Englishman. Okay, so this is the designation. It just pertains to the body. We make our identity, we shape our identity based on what our body looks like or where our body is from. So there are also deeper upadhis, but this is generally how we can understand. I think I'm a man or a woman. I think I'm tall or thin. I think I'm rich or I'm poor. And these are various designations or attachments that we have. And these are there because we have a false ego. The false ego thinks that I am the enjoyer of the material world. So everyone is thinking that he is the enjoyer. And we enjoy through the body. We enjoy through the senses. My touch, my seeing, my tasting, my smelling, my hearing. This is the body, actually. The body is just comprised of the senses. And there's also working senses. The anus, the genital, the legs, the hands. These are working senses. And then there's the mind also. So the body is comprised of these various senses. And there are 11 in total. So these senses are interacting with the material world, and we think that we're enjoying. That is our existence. Our whole existence is comprised simply of sense enjoyment. We're always seeing something, desiring to see something or seeing something, desiring to taste or tasting. We're always desiring to hear or hearing, right? Our whole existence is just sense perception and enjoyment. And because we have this false idea that we are actually the ones who are meant to be enjoying the senses. Okay, so this is the reason that we are suffering in the material world. The material world is temporary, and we are trying to enjoy a temporary atmosphere. But because, like I mentioned, you're an eternal soul, it's not possible. It's totally contradictory. It's like a fish out of water trying to enjoy sand. It will never make him happy. Actually, real enjoyment is enjoyment with Krishna. We have a relationship with Krishna, and it's not a sense enjoyment relationship for ourselves. It's actually the opposite. We increase Krishna's enjoyment. It may seem, wow, that seems very contradictory to our current understanding and experience of reality. But actually, we do have experience of this because more elevated people, and it is generally seen like that also in society, people look up to philanthropists, for example. Their idea to help people is an okay idea. It's misleading also, and also it's actually more dangerous than people understand. But the idea of service is there. That service is a higher pleasure, a higher rasa, it's called in Sanskrit. It's a higher pleasure than just simply enjoying my own senses selfishly like an animal. That is a higher ideal. So that's a little bit perception of what the actual truth is. The actual truth is that our real enjoyment is when we don't want anything for ourselves, we just want something for Krishna. Because we're part and parcel of Krishna. Just like a finger doesn't enjoy by himself, he enjoys by giving food to the stomach. So similarly, Krishna is the absolute or the whole, and we're his little parts and parcels. So when we serve him, automatically we feel satisfied. Or like you can compare it to watering the root of a tree, and then the branches and leaves, they automatically become nourished. Okay, so this is real enjoyment. But because we have this false knot of false ego, it's a real knot of false ego, that we want to enjoy the material body, and we're very much attached to this idea of enjoyment. I was just reading in the Bhagavad-Gita, Prabhupada is explaining that because we originally love Krishna very much, we have a very deep, unlimited love for God, which is difficult for us to understand now. We shouldn't misunderstand. It's not a material love. Material love is actually lust, because it's my sense enjoyment. This is a spiritual love. But when that love becomes perverted, it turns into lust, or the desire to enjoy the body. Right? So just imagine the unlimited love we have for God becomes perverted into lust. So our attachment to the body and enjoyment in the body is very, very, very strong. So the knot is also consequently very tight, and there's many layers. So, and now there's a kind of an interesting story in this connection. There's in the history, maybe if anyone has read the history of the world, I don't know. It's kind of a famous story. There was I don't want to say it's Alexander the Great. I'm just a little speculating. It's not so bad because it's not like a spiritual thing, but I think it was Alexander the Great. There was a test to prove this great personality, Greek personality, or so on and so forth. That there was a knot, a great puzzle knot, huge knot that was knotted in such a way that no one could ever solve it. But he was challenged that you untie this knot. So he used his intelligence and he simply got out his sword and he cut the knot right in twain. And then there was no challenge anymore, and he became, I don't know, the famous king or whatever. So, in principle, that is the same idea here. The guru is using sharp words to cut the knot that we have in the heart. What are you doing? You're not the enjoyer. You're suffering. Every moment you're suffering. You think you're free, but actually you're servant to your anus. You have to go and pass stool whenever the nature calls. So the guru is using strong words to wake us up that you're not the enjoyer, you're not independent, you're not God. And then when this knot is more and more diminished, then you can realize the actual position, what is real consciousness, what is the real goal of life. So it's necessary because we're so much attached. Just like I mentioned before, you need the cold water, the kick. Or if someone's, you have these movie scenes, or maybe you have the actual experience that someone is freaking out, they're having a panic attack, and they can't think clearly. The mind is so disturbed, they're going this way and that way, they're screaming. So you need to grab the person, shake them, and give them a 1-2 back slap, and slap, front slap. And when you slap them like that, then they wake up, and they realize, and they can hear you. Okay, so the guru is like that. He speaks very sharply. You're an animal. It catches the attention. And it's the truth also. We're acting like animals. We're just going for the senses. We're not doing anything higher with our life. And so when the guru speaks like this, it awakens in us our original Krishna consciousness. Okay, so that's the main point. That we have to cut out this knot which binds us to material existence. That is why we're suffering, and that is why we should approach the guru. We should actually approach the guru because of the sharp words, not because he speaks in a very nice voice, in a very flowery language. Actually, that is increasing our attachment to our desire to enjoy ourselves, not to increase Krishna's enjoyment. It's contradictory, actually, to speak in a flowery language. If someone is speaking very nice, oh, he's very respectful, he's very inclusive, he's very, he speaks very lovely, very poetically. Well, poetically is not bad, but I think you understand my point. He's speaking not confrontationally, very respectful of everyone. And telling you, oh, very much encouragement, you are gods. So this is complete nonsense. If you actually understand, if you have any sense, just common sense, that enjoyment is the reason I'm suffering. The more you try to enjoy, the more you suffer. Just look at the world around you. Look at so many examples. Look at your own life. You can't enjoy, and the more you try to enjoy, the more you'll suffer. So a guru who is encouraging that, he's not a guru. He's a guru. He's an animal. He's not actually trying to help you. He just wants your money. He wants to put his finger in your wallet. Okay, so the actually Chanakya Pandit, Chanakya Pandit, I can't remember the pronunciation exactly. A great scholar in India about 3,000 years ago. He's written a very nice Shastra that Srila Prabhupada even recommends, not recommends, but uses the shlokas from very often. It's called Nitai Shastra, or Niti Shastra, sorry. And Chanakya Pandit in there, he says that roughly, to paraphrase, the words of poison, the words of flattery are like poison. If someone's flattering you very much, oh, you're a very nice personality. This is actually poison, because it increases our bodily concept of life, our attachment to our false ego, the knot, it tightens the knot. But if chastisements, sharp chastisements are like nectar, because even though they are, why are they sharp? Because we think we're the enjoyer, we think we're the main character of the story, we think we are perfect. The chastisements are sharp because it goes against the idea that we're perfect. We're getting told, no, you're making mistakes, you're imperfect, you're a fool. This is against our idea, but it's nectar, because that false idea is an illusion, and real happiness is beyond that illusion. So the chastisements are actually a nectar, because they bring us to the nectar of life, or Krishna consciousness. And there are many examples that we get from scripture that paint a very lovely lovely, but very vivid and very clear example of this. So I'm just going to read a couple of examples. There's a very nice scripture called Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraja Goswami, and he that documents the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, who came 500 years ago in Bengal, in India, to give us this Krishna consciousness movement, chanting Hare Krishna and hearing the Bhagavad-Dharma from a guru, which is the philosophy of the absolute truth. So, by the way, the Hare Krishna mantra, if you haven't heard it, is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very nice. You should try it out sometime. So anyway, this pastime is documenting a particular personality called Sri Advaita Acharya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so in this pastime, Lord Advaita is feeling a little transcendentally envious, not actually envious in our sense of the term. He's feeling a little transcendentally, spiritually jealous, because one personality is being chastised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Advaita is not getting such a heavy chastisement, and he feels that, oh, I am so unfortunate, I didn't get such a heavy chastisement. So this may seem a little crazy, but we're going to read and we can explain. Okay, so now basically a little background is that there is this personality called Kamalakanta Vishvasa. So Kamalakanta Vishvasa is a assistant. Sorry, not an assistant. He's a disciple of this line, if I'm not mistaken. And he got contaminated by a philosophy which is bogus. There are many bogus philosophies, and this particular personality, as a Leela, he got contaminated. So Lord Chaitanya very sternly told his assistant, and I'm going to read the shloka now, the Lord ordered Govinda, from today on, do not allow that Bauliya Kamalakanta Vishvasa to come here. When Kamalakanta Vishvasa heard about this punishment by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. But when Advaita Prabhu heard about it, he was greatly pleased. Seeing Kamalakanta Vishvasa unhappy, Advaita Acharya Prabhu told him, you are greatly fortunate to have been punished by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Formerly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as his senior, but I did not like such respect. Therefore, my mind being afflicted by unhappiness, I made a plan. Thus I expounded the Yoga Vashtista, which considers liberation the ultimate goal of life. For this, the Lord became angry at me and treated me with apparent disrespect. When chastised by Lord Chaitanya, I was very happy to receive a punishment similar to that awarded Sri Mukunda. A similar punishment was awarded to Mother Sachi Devi. Who could be more fortunate than she to receive such a punishment? Okay, so that's the end of these shlokas. And there's a very interesting purport here I'm also going to read, which very nicely explains, Srila Prabhupada explains better than I ever could, this particular aspect. Okay, so I think it's this one here. In the Bhagavad-Gita 9.29, the Lord says, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name deveshosti na priyaha. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead being equal to everyone, no one can be his enemy, nor can anyone be his friend. Since everyone is a part or son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord cannot be partial and regard someone as a friend and someone as an enemy. Thus, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished Kamalakanta Vishvasa by no longer allowing him to come into his presence, although the punishment was actually very hard on him, Sri Advaita Prabhu, understanding the inner meaning of such punishment, was happy because he appreciated that the Lord had actually favored Kamalakanta Vishvasa. Therefore, he was not at all unhappy. Devotees should always be happy with the dealings of their master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can note here, also we can note, just for the clarity's sake, or his representative, non-difference from the personality of Godhead, in the sense that he is representing on Krishna's behalf. Okay, so back to the purport. A devotee may be put into difficulty or opulence, but he should accept both as gifts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and jubilantly engage in the service of the Lord in all circumstances. Okay, end of purport. So, yeah, Prabhupada here is explaining that actually it's a great mercy to be chastised. They should be happy with all the dealings of the Master. So one aspect here is that Krishna consciousness, the perfection of Krishna consciousness, like I mentioned before, is that one becomes entirely surrendered to Krishna. And that's actually his greatest happiness. Because we're always in anxiety about our own happiness, therefore we don't ever feel happy. And it's not possible to please myself, because I am myself. Pleasure comes from service, or love. So how can I love myself? I am myself. How can I serve myself? I am myself. It's contradictory. It's not possible. So actual pleasure, actual love comes when we serve the actual object of pleasure, the actual source of pleasure, the actual object of service, Krishna. And when we become fully absorbed in that service and love of God, then we become actually happy. So that surrender means that whatever Krishna does, I'm okay with it, and I'm actually very happy because it's Krishna doing it. I don't care for myself, and that's my true happiness. Now I'm no longer in anxiety whether I'm happy or unhappy, And that loss of what do they say? Self-consciousness. People feel self-conscious. So that that loss of self-consciousness, not that you merge or that you lose your personality in the enlightenment, but the sense of always worrying about whether I'm happy or unhappy, when that disappears and you're simply absorbed in Krishna's happiness, that is real happiness. Try to understand. You are no longer considering whether to be happy or unhappy. You're no longer striving for these things. Because you're absorbed in Krishna's happiness, and Krishna is always happy, you're always happy. So it's a very nice relationship. So the devotee is always happy, even if Krishna gives him something seemingly unpleasant. He's happy because Krishna is giving it to him. Similarly, the same idea should be there with the spiritual master, who is a representative, the guru. Should be also, whatever the guru gives us, we should be happy with it, because it's the guru who's giving it to us. And also, in the developing stage of Krishna consciousness, the guru is guiding us. So whether he gives you praise, or whether he gives you service, or whether he gives you chastisement, everything is for your development. The guru knows, you don't know. So he's chastising you so you can actually become happy. That brings me to another point. The guru is not chastising because he's envious or because he's frustrated. The guru is self-satisfied. Otherwise, why are you approaching him, right? He's a self-realized soul. So the guru, or people who are also representing the guru, they might not be perfect, but if they're trying to help you understand the guru, they are also in that line. If they chastise you, it's not out of enviousness, and it's not that they have a personal issue. They actually are doing it out of love, because they want you to be really happy. They're chastising you to perfect your consciousness, to perfect your service to Krishna. And so this is the real happiness of a devotee or someone in knowledge, because they realize, actually, this chastisement is for my best interest. So that is why Advaita Prabhu is very happy here, because he knows that Kamalakanta Vishvasa is getting chastised, he's getting diverted from his deviation. He's getting put back on the right path. And he'll be actually satisfied, he'll be happy. So he becomes very happy because of that, but he's unhappy because he himself didn't get such a great chastisement. So it seems almost like a total, it's very unorthodox compared to how we think about things in the material world. But Advaita Prabhu, we should take it from him. He's a great self-realized soul, actually is an incarnation of God, Krishna, Mahavishnu. So we should take it from him that this is actually this is the right consciousness to have. Okay, so there's another similar shloka we can also connect in this connection, that Chanakya Pandit says in the Nejcs Shastra, that leniency encourages bad qualities in a student or son, and strictness helps develop good qualities. Therefore, a teacher or parent should not pamper a child, but administer punishment for bad behavior. So, it's not that punishment, okay, there may be a little temporary suffering, but that temporary suffering, it adjusts us, and it puts us on the right path. We can develop good qualities. If you develop bad qualities, if you become a really stinky person, you'll never be happy, and you'll never make a success of your life. People will also hate you. So, although you may enjoy temporarily because someone's not chastising you and telling you a nonsense, if you endure, and more favorably, if you become enthusiastic because someone is chastising you, in the future, the prayas, the long-term effect, will be much greater. So when the guru is chastising, this is very, very nice. And we should be very much enthusiastic, because that is for our benefits. Okay, so I think that is clear. So, yeah, now it's getting a little late for me, so I'm just going to start wrapping up here. But there's just a couple of other things I wanted to bring in. So, yes, so Srila Prabhupada, he had many disciples, and his disciples share very nectarian memories of their close, it's not that physical association with Srila Prabhupada is necessarily the only way to have close association. You can also have close association with Srila Prabhupada through his transcendental books. If you read Prabhupada's books, you're actually associating with Prabhupada directly, because Prabhupada is non-different from his books. A little difficult concept to understand, but Srila Prabhupada is on the absolute platform. He's a spiritual perfect being. His instruction is coming from Krishna. It's from a platform of non-relativity. So there's no difference between Prabhupada and his instruction. Okay, maybe that's clear or not, I'm not entirely sure. You can let me know. But when you read Prabhupada's books, you are actually directly associating with Prabhupada. Actually, it's very logical. Even, I was just discussing with Guruji Prabhu this morning, a physical sound vibration is also physical presence. If there's a sound vibration, that is also physical. That is another, just like how the body is physical, sound vibration is also physical. So if you hear from Prabhupada, that is also associating with Prabhupada. Okay, so, and that's a spiritual sound vibration, not a material sound vibration. That's the difference here. Okay, so you can read from Prabhupada, and but there are disciples who were early, and they also were associating with Prabhupada while he was, you could say, physically present, just for conventional sake. So one of these disciples, many disciples actually, they remember being chastised by Prabhupada very fondly. And I'm just going to read one of those memories now. Oh boy, well now I don't want to make a mistake here. So this memory is from, let us see. This memory is from Gauridas Pandit. Okay, very nice devotee. Gauridas Pandit is remembering. Another time, Srila Prabhupada was sick and had mucus in his eyes, which is also, let us just understand, a lila for, so Prabhupada can exhibit the lila of, and relate to us, and maybe to appear like a conditioned soul, that he is a material body, but that's actually not the fact. Srila Prabhupada is a spiritual body. Anyway, so the memory continues. So he sent Upendra to the store to get an eye rinse and a little glass to wash his eyes. Upendra is another disciple of Srila Prabhupada. When Upendra got back, Prabhupada asked him, "How much did you pay for the eye wash?" And Upendra said, 4 rupees. At that time, the exchange rate was 16 rupees to $1, so it was about 25 cents. Prabhupada said, 4 rupees? It's only worth 1 rupee, maybe 2, but you have spent 4 rupees. It's a waste of Krishna's money. Prabhupada didn't want to see any money wasted. To instruct us, he would chastise us, but the next minute he would smile at us. He didn't hold a grudge. He chastised his disciples for their benefit, and even then, he only did it when they could take it in the proper way. Okay, so that's the end of the memory. A very, very instructive, very nice realization Gauridas Prabhu has on this particular subject matter. Prabhupada is not doing it, like I mentioned, because he's holding a grudge against the disciples, because he's having a bad day, because someone brushed him the wrong way and now he wants to take it out on someone else. Prabhupada loves his disciples, and he wants to see them in Krishna consciousness. He wants to give them the best benefit. So he just chastises them when it's necessary. And when they can take it and benefit from the chastisement, he gives the right medicine. Just like how someone is sick, and if someone is sick, he might be fighting, but you have to give him the medicine anyway. And then he will become relieved after you give him the medicine. You have to jab it in his arm, the vaccine or whatever. So, Srila Prabhupada is the same way. The chastisement might be harsh, or the guru or whoever you accept as an instructor. The chastisement might be harsh, but that is the correct treatment, and so you will feel relieved, actually. You've got to burst the boil. It might be a little painful, but once you do it, you will feel relief. So this was a very nice memory by Gauridas Prabhu. And there's similar other memories of our grand spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his disciples would actually be so eager after they got chastised by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. They would come to the other disciples and they would say, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, he chastised me," and they would describe how he chastised them and for what reason and so on and so forth. They would discuss the chastisements because it's nectar, because they were realizing that actually the chastisement is a realization. It elevates my consciousness. So, and it's very spiritually beneficial. Actually, it's mentioned that when the Guru favors you, he chastises you. Actually, if the Guru thinks you're a nonsense, he's just going to praise you. Oh, you are very nice, very paka disciple. Because that's what you want to hear. You can't take a chastisement. But if you're serious to advance, then the Guru will chastise, so that you can actually get the benefit in advance. Okay, so I think this portion is also clear. So now that's pretty much the end of the subject matter. I think that's kind of an extensive coverage. Let us just indulge in some nectar, and we're going to hear some more sharp words of Srila Prabhupada directly. So this is a little less about the Guru chastising, and more about, on the subject matter, like I was mentioning before, of the Guru using heavy words in order to awaken our sense, our proper sense. Okay, so this is a conversation that Srila Prabhupada had with two Australian lawyers, and Prabhupada is using, he's putting his foot down, and he's smashing a concept at least in the West, or in the relative world in total, in general, that is very common and people think is very commendable, but Prabhupada is not holding back. He's smashing this. So let's hear. And I wanted to hear, but the YouTube is glitching out. This is the difficulty with modern technology. That is so much unfortunate. My phone just broke. I guess Krishna doesn't... I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to hear from Srila Prabhupada, but maybe Steve Jobs is envious of Srila Prabhupada and doesn't want Srila Prabhupada to come on. Okay, so unfortunately, it doesn't seem like my phone's now completely broken. Alright, so we can't hear from Srila Prabhupada. Well, maybe I'm just going to put the video clip there. Okay, I probably put the video clip there now, so welcome back. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the topic of the sharp words of the Guru. Hopefully, Peter Krishna, that you found this helpful. My very little realization I have on the subject matter. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please put a like. It's very much helpful to us. You can also subscribe to this channel, and you can put the notification bell on so you're always updated when we come up with a new podcast or some of the other content we come out with. And you can join us, you can add us on Facebook, Expand the Bliss. You can add me on Facebook, Maitreya Rishi Dasa. You can add His Grace Purajit Prabhu at Purajit Dasa. And in this way you can get in touch with the Bliss, and we can discuss more of these wonderful subject matters of Krishna consciousness. And if you like what we do, you can also contribute by giving us a donation. We have so many different donation platforms that helps us continue making these podcasts, and we'd of course like to keep on doing them, but the material world is tough, man, and it's not like money grows on trees. So you can help us out with that if you'd like. So thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best and a Krishna conscious rest of your day or night. Depends where you are and what time you're listening. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol.